What's up, Zox fam? Now, Tribe 9 has a ton of updates that's going to be coming with version 1.0, which is for the official release of the game. Now, I want to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on this because there are some things that are drastically changing that I definitely know are factors to consider for the player experience. Now, with that, we will be streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/Zoxaskun later on today for the official release. So make sure you guys come through, join the Discord. That'll all be linked down below. But let's go ahead and let's jump right into it. All right, so version 1.0 update notes. What's really important to note here is that this covers a ton of things. So we have city related, challenge related things, character related things, event and campaign related, battle related, XB related. We have exploration related. We have collectible related, compatible monster related, and then also system related. So we're going to be starting off with the city related, where they basically are adding a new city called the Monado City. It looks pretty sick. I'm not going to lie. I mean, obviously this means that this is going to be a new map or new experience for us within the story to be able to experience, which I think is going to be pretty cool. Now, on top of that, that also in my head automatically goes to more currency, right? Like, this is how I always look at it. So more is typically better when you're talking about having things to do within a game. Now, they basically have adjustments to objects and enemy placements in 24 City, in the Shinagawa City. So that is something that we'll actually be able to see. And that's some things that we might mention here that we're not really going to be able to know or really see until we're actually in game. So we'll get to that when we get to that, right? Now, challenge related. They basically added a new story challenge to chapter 2, The Monster Within. Now, again, with the challenges, these are some things that I will be testing and trying out myself for the first time. But they go to show this really cool looking boss. I'm not gonna lie, that's fine. I'm not gonna lie, that looks cool. So I think, again, this is just more content, more fun for us to be able to take advantage of. So I think that that's gonna be like just good, right? It's just always good to see more content being added into the game. So they have new city and daily challenges being added to the Monado City as well. So it's just kind of showing us some of the resources. Again, like I was mentioning, resources, whether it be, premium currency, just some of the standard currency, like whatever we're using to level up things, etc. Now, on top of that, they also have some story changes. So from chapter 0, I'm tired of playing the hero, to chapter 1, the hazardous workplace. Early game progression in chapter 0 has been rebalanced. Now, I think that of course, is something that's always nice, especially when you're talking about that initial impression. Initial impression determines everything, whether or not you're going to come back to the game or whether or not you're going to keep playing it, right? So they basically go to say, we've lowered the difficulty of chapter 0 and changed the timing of when players unlock both the synchro, which is the gotcha feature, and the edit functions to midway through the chapter, allowing players to access their favorite characters earlier in the game. That is huge. You don't want to you don't want to drag people along or like just kind of have them straggling along too long, because then there's just disinterest, right? Now, they basically have revised the story flow. So chapter 0 has been shortened to align with the changes to the tutorial and when the new features become available. So that's a good QOL shift. Now, this is something that I actually did read ahead on. And this is actually what kind of ignited me to want to make this video, is because the fast forward feature has been removed. Now, they go to say that development team Insight, the development team has made the difficult decision to remove the story fast forward feature from the release version. After talking it over, we realized it could make it hard for players to follow the story. It might cause problems when you get to the climax. Since this feature is important for the overall story experience, we'll continue to explore better implementation options by analyzing player reactions and gameplay habits going forward. Now, I will say this. This is one thing that you guys want to make sure you completely avoid, that I feel like games like Honkai Star Rail make an absolute mistake. And even they're adding this feature because it just becomes one of those things where players want to play the game, right? Granted, there are going to be those individuals that want to play for story, but more than likely, there's going to be more individuals that are playing to play the game. And the more that you can get people into the content or the combat or whatever it is that they're like really going to get the adrenaline or the dopamine from, that's ultimately going to be all that really matters. The more that you have them in story that might be feeling like it's dragging out, and that's one thing I like just hoping they don't do. Don't drag out components just to drag it out. Like, get straight to the point, have those moments that lead up to, the climax moments, but don't drag it out too much, right? And I think that that's the whole reason too for functions like the skip feature, is that for those that want to enjoy it, they can. For those that don't, they don't have to. And I feel like even for me personally, I don't mind it. I don't mind there not being a feature, but I also think that there needs to be something to basically help implement like going through the game just more seamless for all kinds of players. So again, I think that again could be something that could be looked at as a little weird, but hopefully it's not too bad, right? Now, production elements have been enhanced, and so they basically have go to say here that the sound design has been refined and polished, so character voices have been adjusted to maintain optimal story pacing, and new music and sound effects have been added into the game, which audio cues are always a really big thing. Now, they have some character-related stuff here where we have a new playable character added, Sentaro Mita. Not gonna lie, he looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. I wish we would have gotten like, you know, some visuals here, but he looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. So he does kind of seem to have like this electric, like kind of plus and minus. So it's like obviously negative, positive interaction here. So looks really cool. I kind of can't wait to see what I get because I don't know if I'll even be able to get this character, but we'll see. Now it says characters that appear in the story will depend on who you have in your party. So that's actually kind of cool to note. Based off of what characters you have determines who you actually get to see, which I guess kind of plays more into the notion of like almost kind of like how they have it in Pokemon. Like if you're like, you know, you have a certain Pokemon in your party, you kind of have it walk behind you. It won't just be some random Pokemon walking behind you. I guess that kind of makes sense. And then it says each playable character has their own unique story moments that change as you progress throughout the game. So in situations where the character's presence in the party is narratively inconsistent, they will temporarily manifest as a hologram to accompany the player. This manifestation will be a visual distinct and will persist until the player reaches the point in the story where the character can officially rejoin the party or join the party. It is important to note that the hologram effect is purely visual and does not alter the narrative progression, which I guess kind of makes sense because if there's a component that that character doesn't actually exist in or they're not even a part of, then it would make no sense for them to physically be there. So the hologram idea is actually kind of cool. Now they also have character rarities have been updated to align with the changes below. So we'll have to see what that is. Now they also have the event campaign and related things that are going to be happening with the events. And so they basically have these events coming. So there's a character buff campaign that they're basically going to have within the game. They have a Fractal Vice favored campaign as well. They have a Crisis Contractor event that's going to be happening. A account linking reward, which you can see there's premium currency given for that. And then they basically say to check in-game notice for complete details about each campaign. So we'll have to take a look at that when we actually are able to stream this. So we will be checking that out. Now, the battle related things that they have changed here, they have changed some mechanics in the game. So character actions have been redesigned. So normal attacks, primary attacks, a rapid sequence of strikes that does not consume stamina will allow for stamina regeneration during execution, which is kind of cool. Now, the secondary attack, a powerful attack that consumes stamina and leaves the character vulnerable, but offers a substantial damage payoff. Now, the strategy skills here, unique character special or specific abilities will distinct activation requirements and effects reflecting the strengths of each character. Counterattack is also another thing that exists within the game where all characters are now capable of executing counter maneuvers, either a deflect or counter or a dodge counter, like I was mentioning before, depending on the character. So that's actually pretty cool. Now, along with these changes, we've removed the cooldown system and all characters' animations have been updated. So that definitely will give us like some windows where we'll have like animation cancel windows and all different things that we can kind of play around with. So it's kind of like a new game basically for everybody, which is kind of cool. Now, new chain skill activation system. So chain skills now activate when you break the enemy's posture instead of the old impairing system. So keep attacking an enemy to weaken their posture. Once it's fully broken, you can use a chain skill. Enemies will regain posture if they don't take damage for a while or if they hit your character. We also added a 3-stage indicator around the HP bar so you can see the posture status. Allies can help weaken an enemy's posture, but you need to land a heavy with your character to fully break it, which makes sense. So that's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. I like the fact that they're changing the combat to make it a little bit more seamless and to kind of add some different elements to it. Now, the ultimate skill activation now consumes the tension gauge, and the battle system's tension gauge can only be filled by performing chain skills. Now, in the deadly demo, you can fill your tension gauge by dealing damage or getting successful parries, but in the official release, you can only gain tension gauge from using chain skills. Some character abilities and tension cards can still change your tension gauge though. Now, they also go to say that the evasion gauge has been renamed to stamina with adjustments made to both consumption rates and recovery speed. Now, players will now become temporarily invincible when not backed by attacks. So That's pretty cool. So they have more details in the director's letter, hashtag #03 or 003, which I'll have this link down below. So if you guys want to check that out, you'll be able to check it out. Now, the following adjustments have been made to the battle HUD, which basically, it looks like they just kind of made it to where it's not as cluttered. It kind of sort of seems like that. I guess the after is kind of more of an indicator for you to be able to see like health and stuff like that, because you do technically have allies. So I guess that they want you to be more aware and not make things as hard for you to visibly see. So I guess that kind of makes sense that they kind of like simplified that. So it says now you can lock on to any enemy. We've changed where the gauges for your party, exactly what I was saying, where your party members are. You can see how much tension you need for your ultimate. Each character now has their own special gauge on the left. We've updated the way action commands are displayed, and the command list is gone from the battle status screen. Now, all character actions have been updated. As mentioned above, all character attacks will be restructured into 4 categories: primary attacks, secondary attacks, counter attacks, and strategy skills. Now, I'm not going to go too crazy into this because we really have no absolute idea what the full changes are really going to be doing. But I will say we'll keep this up. I'll have it obviously linked for you guys to check this out, but I'm gonna have it up during the stream so we can kind of get a little bit of a better idea as far as what has changed. And if you played the beta before, definitely come through to the stream so that we can have some conversations about that stuff, because I definitely want to make some more videos on it. Now, new tension cards have been added. So the game starts now has been added. Work-life balance has been added. I mean, that one looks like they're screaming for people to spend for, but and many other cards have been added to the game. Now, the tension card system and effects are updated. So tension card effects have been modified. So as all tension card effects have been modified, specific details are not included in this update note, but we'll be able to actually take a look at them in game. So some tension cards now consume tension to activate. They also added a synergy system that lets you combine things to activate special effects. So for example, if you combine a card that gives you unity effect with a card that activates when you get unity, you will get both, or basically utility out of both cards. So it's actually kind of cool. So it's actually kind of not really an element system, but it's more of a synergy system, which I think is actually really cool to have. Now, they also updated the ascended system for the tension cards. So duplicate tension cards no longer automatically ascend. This means you can now keep multiple copies of the same card, but you still can't equip the same card twice at the same time. So you can have it on a different character, but they probably can't be on the same team with the exact same card, right? Now, you can also convert unwanted tension cards into enigmatic fragments and remnants and enigmatic pieces, right? And they also have added new bosses. One called Destroyer, which obviously looks cool. They have the Battle Diver, which looks pretty cool. It's like a Tokyo Gundam. And then there's one with a question mark, which means they have a secret one that we'll just have to kind of wait and see what it is. They added some new content called Fractal Vice, which we'll have to see what that is too. And 2 new Red Limit series have been added as well. And there's no images for these, so we'll just have to wait. Now, they have some new enemies that are in the game. So always having different enemy types are always just to make the game more expansive and the game more fun. Enemy actions have been updated as well, and they also have updated battle graphics and visuals as well. So there's a lot of things that they've gone and basically have adjusted so far in this patch. Now, I want to get into the XB related things. So new conditional skill and effects have been added. So you have the super play. So during XB, you can perform super plays based on your allocated potential and story progression. And then you also have extreme plays where you'll get extreme factors when something really unique or hard to pull off happens in a match. If you have any of these factors, you can do extreme plays in when your tension is high. And you can see if you have any extreme factors by looking at the icon at the top of the screen. Now, when players or characters get enough buffs from super or extreme plays, they will have a glowing aura. So this actually makes it easier to identify what the indicator is here, which is really cool. Now, pitching hitting screen has been updated, and when you choose a command, the minimap will now show where the ball is going and which skill will be used. So that's actually pretty cool. So in the deadly demo, the minimap only showed the likelihood of the ball direction and skills, but now in the full game, you will see exactly what's going to happen. Also, if a character icon on the minimap, that means they're guaranteed to use their super or extreme play, right? Now, after each turn, both you and the enemy will gain some tension. At-bats will automatically be skipped under certain conditions, and at the bat doesn't really matter if you skip the commands and see the quick recap instead, basically. Now, there is going to be a log button to the pitching batting screen so you can keep track of what's happening in the game. And then the following changes have been made to the story XP progression. So that is also a component here, where they basically have gone and they basically seem to have simplified this whole functionality, which is pretty cool. So after selecting command, a debate between the characters will begin. And basically, I guess that's kind of just to add more, I don't want to say theatrics, but I guess more theatrics to the scenario. So it says we also added new dialogue system where your command choices can change how the conversation go. Picking the right answers can lead to some more interesting interactions and help you learn more about the characters. This feature is only available in Story XB. Now, the Verity orbs have been significantly updated. Unlike in the demo, you'll now need to complete all Verity orb challenges before starting Story XB. This means you'll start Story XB with every Verity orb ready to use. When you get the chance to use a Verity orb in Story XB matches, you'll need to choose the right one from your collection. So I guess that kind of leaves that up to us. Now, they've also gone to balance Story XB and Story Challenge from Chapter 0 to Chapter 1. And then it says you can now check out the details of extreme plays and see how potential is developing on both the XB formation screen and the map. Now, multiplayer mode for XB has been added. So you can unlock casual match mode after you beat the Story Challenge Chapter 2, The Monster Within, and the new XB mode that lets you compete against a special NPC team. We don't know what that is, but it's apparently something that is a higher difficulty, or the team, I should say, we don't know. Now, exploration related, we've made some changes to how the exploration screen looks and how the HUD is laid out, which it looks a little bit more like the other screen where you just kind of can see some of the indicators like the HP a little bit better, etc. It's just more visible and you kind of can tell who's in the lead or who's not. New features added full marks gate. And with the full marks gate, it says as you progress through the game, you'll sometimes come across special full mark gates that block your path. These gate marks at a point where the game gets harder. So to open these gates, you'll need to level up your characters until they are strong enough. And I actually like this because this means that they're not going to let you just get pummeled just because. So basically, when you encounter a full mark gate, it is a good idea to focus on powering up your party. So that makes sense. The following safe zones have been added, which is the Patsumate. They have the antenna shop. They also have the card station. And then also on top of that, they renamed the old dungeon system to Rift and made some changes and additions to it. The objects and treasure chests that contain items have been added, and the enemies will now drop compatible monsters and training materials, which is kind of cool. So rifts are smaller areas where you can find more materials for leveling up your characters than in other places. They also have special items that you can only get in specific cities. So think of rifts as a good place to stock up on stuff without having to spend ages exploring. That's huge. Now, with a removal of the stamina system formerly called energy, which will be discussed later, dungeons can now be accessed using boosters instead. So with that, you can get boosters by completing daily missions and challenges in support contracts. More on that below, or by defeating enemies. If you have some boosters to spare, use them to activate rifts and speed up your character growth. Now, the rift's difficulty level adjusts based on your full mark sticker count. When and while you're exploring the rift, you can now check your character information and change your party formation, and you can now exit the rift at any time. Your progress will be saved and you can resume where you left off by re-entering the rift. Now, on top of that, new rifts have been added in the Shinagawa city, and then a new lobby area has been added there as well. So after you complete the story challenge chapter 2, The Monster Within, you can enter the lobby from any respite unit. In the lobby, you can take on a Fractal Vice challenge, and you can also chat with characters to give them gifts. Now, they've also added some new puzzles as well, which just means new mini games essentially. You can also now recover some of your HP by checking out other players' wipe out history. And I kind of like this idea because it kind of gives me that Souls vibe, Elden Ring vibe, where you can kind of see like some of the things that some people have done so that you can prevent that from happening to yourself. And it also says in some areas of each city, you might run into ferocious enemies that will chase after you. And these ferocious enemies will respawn in a new spot if you defeat them. Your team is wiped out or a certain amount of time passes. Rare enemies that that give a lot of EXP points will show up in different places around each city. And each day, a rare enemy will appear in a random spot within the city. So that's going to be a daily task for you to go and find. Now, characters will also now speak in more situations like when they're idle or when certain things happen in the game. You will now find more breakable items scattered throughout each of the areas. And then they've also made it to where the following changes to the graffiti find challenges. They added a lot more graffiti to the city. Finding more is now a part of the Zero Sensei mission. And then on top of that, collecting all graffitis by one artist will give you extra rewards. Now, the other thing that they have here too is that there's more treasure chests that respawn after a certain amount of time. So the respawn time is determined by the chest rarity. So I guess it's kind of cool too. And that actually is kind of nice because that means that those are like rewards that are just constant, right? Versus like you find the chest once and then you don't have any other source of income there. So that's kind of cool. Enemy behavior during exploration has been adjusted. So enemies will now wander within areas and you can now see enemy detection ranges. Running past enemies can alert them regardless of their detection range, and spotting the player alerts nearby enemies who will then pursue. If there are any significant power difference between you and the enemy, they might run away. Ooh, I kind of like that. And enemies won't disappear when you change screens. Now, you'll get a special alert when you pick up a tension card during exploration, and the following additions have been made in the world map. So you now get notifications about elements resetting over time, so daily challenges, delivery requests, and fractal vice rewards when those are refreshed. You also have new types of map icons that have been added, and then you also you can now check your Verity orbs collection progress. The game sound design has been enhanced as well, so it's basically just to create more of an immersion for the game with new music and ambient sounds, right? Now, the collectible related thing that they have here, they have a skin feature that they have added in the game. And limited skins have been added. So this gives you a little bit more, I would say, customization over your characters. So you have the Transmelt, you have the Augustus gear, you have the Parallel Cipher, and there's probably a few more. Special skins have been added for some characters as well, and then color variations for some skins have been added as well. So you're just basically getting a unique experience, right? Now, a new item called the Wonder Box is now in the game. This actually kind of reminds me a little bit of Guardian Tales. I don't know if this is a rip, but it looks like it. But either way, skins and profile banners can be obtained. Wonder Boxes can be earned from various in-game activities. Kazuki Oyama, there we go, skins will be available for purchase in the Patiment upon his release. So these skins can also be available in Wonder Boxes after the next major update. So delivery requests feature has been added. Players can request and receive training materials from one another. So make sure you guys come through to the stream, twitch.tv/Zoxaskun, because we need to add each other. And then fulfill item requests from other players to earn Enigma and titles. Now, the other thing that they have here is that the first aid kit is now called the first aid item with new types and modifications. So dishes from the deadly demo are now included in the first aid items, and some of the first aid items can be synthesized with the proper recipe. Now, compatible monster related things, they have new compatible monsters, Barbarian, Megalodon, they have, the Knight, the XE, they have the Kobold, Maggie, and they have added many more. Okay, now the leveling system for compatible monster has been removed, and compatible monsters can now be found in treasure chests and as enemy drops. Now, they basically have made it to where you'll get special visual effects when you discover a Patamon while exploring, and we've overhauled the substat system. So since all substats have been adjusted, details are not included in these patch notes. Set effects have been added and changed. Please check the in-game notification for further details, and the more full mark stickers you have, the higher the tier of compatible monsters you'll find. Now, system-related things that they also have here available on iOS and Android, and the data is now shared across platforms. So paid Enigma titles or entities, you've purchased will also be available on other platforms. They've added a few other languages, and they've added some new things to the shop. The Daily Pass, the Enigmatic token exchange. And basically you're able to get fragments, remnants, and pieces for rewards. The stamina system, formerly energy, has been removed. And then they have the support contract feature, which has been added as well, which basically is going to be similar to the battle pass, complete gameplay missions to earn rewards. 2 types of support contracts, basic and arm. All players can get basic, but then the other portion is paid. Friendship level feature has been added as well. So each character has a friendship level, and increasing the friendship by using characters in battle and gifting them in the lobby. Friendship levels have no effect on character abilities. So it's just probably some extra resources or rewards you might get. And when you acquire a character, you'll now see a new special animation. Following changes have been made to the synchro. So standard synchro pulls can now be done using synchro medals. And after 300 embark companionship pulls, you'll unlock a special invitation that guarantees a 3-star character from the same synchro. So that's not too bad. We just have to kind of see how many pulls we realistically get. So I guess that kind of depends. And this reward can be claimed 1 time per account. Oh, so this is actually the 1-time claim. So yeah, that actually is okay. And then you can try out characters in battles based on the current synchro rotation. And a feature will be unlocked as you progress through the story that lets you add characters to your team as guests, even if you have not acquired them yet, which is pretty cool. The skip intro feature now works in different areas. And basically this works up to the synchro point in chapter 0, as mentioned previously. And the skip intro is available after you reach synchro, unlock chapter 0. Deleting your player data will no longer be necessary. So they're really trying to push for people not to reroll, but we already know people are going to do it anyway. Zero Sensei missions have been added, like we mentioned above. Character status screen now shows additional information. Attack ability, break ability, support ability, and operation difficulty will now be displayed. And the difficulty rating takes into account both new raw stats and also how the device feels in your hands. Now, the extreme play skill effects during XB will now be displayed. And then they have a command list that was there that has been removed as part of the battle system update. Profile screen elements have been added, and you can now customize your player card by changing your banner in metal. You can also see friendship levels with the level or character friendship level meter, sorry. And then they've also added a character archive feature, and you can view your character's profiles. You can now preview skins for your characters you don't own. Potentials have been updated for the following changes. The new rank system has changed. So it looks like it goes all the way from now, it was like before 1 through 10. Now it's 1 through 5, then to EX, EX1, EX2, EX3, and then EX4. Further upgrades beyond EX rank provide minimum stat gains provided to previous levels. How well you develop your potentials will affect your chances of triggering your super plays in XB, and the number of content potentials have been updated, which like I said, have this link down so that you guys can check this out. Okay. Now with that too, we also are coming towards the end. So tip locations and content have been adjusted. Following features have been added as well. And this is basically so that you can follow your friends, right? So you just have an easier way of doing that. And then the access synthesize options through the details menu. We have improved the audio experience. The soundtracks have been expanded with new music. We remixed and remastered all the music to better fit with the voice acting and sound effects. Controller settings have been updated. So we've improved the button assignments for frequent and actions used. Left stick can now use the navigate menus just like the D-pad, and we've added other minor control tweaks. The key customization has been added. And so yeah, there's a ton of different things. The last big thing here that they have is that we can now link and transfer accounts, and Steam achievements have been added. Dude, this is jam-packed. This might be the biggest version update notes I've seen on any game, but it makes sense, I guess, because they did so many overhaul changes. This is cool though. I feel like, again, we have a lot to look forward to. I really can't wait to be able to stream this. We are going to be streaming at 7 p.m. CST my time. EST, that should be about 8 p.m. And for, I think PST, that should be about 5 or 6. So either way, I will have everything scheduled in my Discord. The links will be all down below. Make sure you guys come through to the Discord, okay? It's going to be an absolute blast. I am going to be tripping out, having a ton of fun, and I hope to be able to share some of those moments with you guys. And definitely make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel. I just read that whole entire thing. That was a lot of reading, but I hope that I was able to kind of explain that, make it a little bit more digestible so that you didn't have to read it yourself. But again, guys, let me know how you guys are feeling. Are you hyped for it tonight? In the comment section down below. But that's going to be that, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.